There it is.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. John Allen, for joining me this afternoon. I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Alfred Freeman, and this is what we call the new generational business talk. And as a young business entrepreneur, my goal is to enrich the world and young business mind out there and understanding what is it and how we can gap both the young, the old, middle, you name it, all together in one platform. This is why we call it generational business talk. Throughout the course of the show, a lot of questions will be asked, a lot of stories will be told. Please feel free to comment below and ask as much questions as possible. This is our first inaugural show here, so everything is still in the building stage, still in the foundational stage. And please, I apologize in advance for any mistakes, but this is the first one. And please continue to like, follow, and subscribe. My guest that I have here today with me is Mr. John D. Allen. Need no more introductory. He's a successful business owner, has lots and lots of years experience in both in management, and marketing, you name it. I'm going to give the stage over to Mr. John Allen so he can introduce himself more properly. Take it away, Mr. John.
Couple of things. Thanks, Alfred, for having me on your inaugural show. I really appreciate it. The other thing is, don't apologize. Your show is going to keep growing as it goes. So are there going to be mistakes made? Sure. Are you going to make changes as you grow? Sure. So you don't need to apologize. This is a work in progress. And one of the things that I find being quite a bit older than you, and as you and I have discussed many times, my philosophies and the younger people's philosophies on business are somewhat different. The young people, this is an incredible time to be growing up in this world. We're all watching history being made. Now, one of the things as a young business person that you need to realize is there's no participation medals. Nobody's going to give you a ribbon because you started a business. So what? Some of the things I say today may sound cruel, hard, and whatever. Tough. Welcome to the real world. As Elf has heard me say, people, when I was in corporate, would come in to apply for a job. They'd tell me, I need a job. My answer was, so what? So do a lot of other people. The big thing you all need to realize is, what can you do for that business? They really don't care about you. As hard as this may seem, it's a true fact of life. What that business wants is they want the best people that they can have for that job. So when you go in to apply for a job, do a little research first. What can you offer that business? Because when I was in corporate, if someone could come in and say, well, geez, John or Mr. Allen, I can do X, Y, Z for you. You stood a lot better chance than coming in and telling me I need a job. Because like I said before, so what? So do a lot of other people. You know, if you can't answer that simple question of what can you do for me, you're not getting hired. Matter of fact, here's one of the questions I always ask all the applicants. One of the last questions, why should I hire you? The looks on their faces were priceless. Most of them had no clue other than tell me they needed a job. Tough luck. So do a lot of others.
And definitely, Mr. Allen, thank you so much for giving us this input. Today's topic is definitely going to be on what we call the generational differences in leadership styles. I know you have a lot to take on this over the course of the time period, having to work in different fields and different areas in management. What advices can you give for the young generation that are coming up regarding the changes that are happening currently as we speak?
One of the biggest changes is, again, look at what you can offer that business, or if you want to open your business, you know, what need can you fill? It's not just something that say, wow, you know, I like doing this. Is there a real need for it?
Right.
The other thing that you have to be aware of is people, you know, their main interest is what's in it for me. WIIFM, everybody's favorite radio station. And just because you like something doesn't mean someone else can. So if you're starting out and you want to run your business, find out who your ideal clients are.
Mhm.
The next thing is find out where they hang out. Because just because you like TikTok or WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever else is the greatest, newest, greatest thing out there going,
Mhm.
if your ideal prospects and clients aren't on that media forum, you're not going to attract anybody. You have to find out where they are and what they want. And when you can get down to their real problem, that's when you're going to have a successful business. I put out an article and I'll be glad to share it with anybody here, and I can put a link in after for you. It's called Fall in Love with Your Prospect's Problem,
Mhm.
not your program or solution. Again, it's very simple. People are more concerned about their problem than they are your solution or your program.
Right.
Something that you and I have spoke about many times, Alpha, is if you go on Google and you're looking for something, do you go looking for that particular company's name or that person's picture? Or are you looking to see if they can solve your problem?
I mean, the whole idea is just to go in there and try to get my problem taken care of. And that's what I come out of my mouth.
And that is one of the biggest mistakes a great majority of businesses make. They all want to see their logo and their picture stuck right up on their website. You know, that's great. Makes them feel really good. Nobody else gives a damn. And that's something that can really hurt you. Another thing that I found is when I was in corporate, a lot of younger people coming out, they've got a good education or whatever. They want to start at the top. Well, the only job you can start at the top is be a grave digger, dig out a hole. You start at the top, and when you get to the bottom, you're done. Just
Right.
because you've got an education doesn't mean you start at the top. It might get you started a couple levels up, but don't expect to start at the top. It ain't gonna happen.
But the thing about it is that a lot of time university tends to put kids in a position where they feel like they're entitled, because you went to such and such school, you paid hundreds and thousands of dollars for that piece of paper, sort of degree. Now you feel entitled that, okay, I deserve to have this job, not realizing that the experience doesn't match the job that is required. It's always okay to start from the bottom and work your way up to the top. There is no need to rush. Nevertheless, don't get discouraged about what is it that you want to do. At a young age, I can speak for the young generation right now. We tend to rush a lot of things, not realizing that life needs some time just to down, slow down with the process. And I think what Mr. Allen here is telling us here is that to understand that if you want something, it's going to take time. You're not just going to graduate and have a CEO or become a corporate manager of a big multi-billion dollar company. All that takes time as we goes. Most definitely indeed, Mr. Allen.
And that's another challenge, very good points. One of the other things is people say, well, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to be my own boss. That's really great. For a lot of people, all they did is buy themselves a job. They find they're working a lot harder for a lot more hours and a lot less money than they would if they were working for somebody else.
But the question is then, how do people, the younger generation, able to not be prone to that kind of mentality or that kind of way of doing things? What is it that they can tap into, or their habits they can develop to actually understand what they're getting themselves into?
The biggest thing there is success leaves clues.
Mm.
There's tons of books out there, tons of videos. I know people don't read too much anymore, but there's tons of books and videos out there that talk about the different things you need to become a success. If you go in there and rah, 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 I know it all, I guarantee within a very short time, you're going to fail
Right.
because you don't know it all. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that people aren't aware of in a business. The Michael Jackson was an overnight success. It only took him 25 years.
True.
Now I don't know what you class as an overnight success, but 25 years, that takes a while.
Mhm.
You've heard me talk about there was a golf pro. And he had a person come up and say, geez, I really want to be a golf pro, just like you. The pro looked at the person and said, do you hit 1,000 golf balls a day? Oh, heck no, I don't have time for that. You'll never be the pro, because you have to do the behind the scenes work before you'll ever see the other stuff.
So just to piggyback on that, I think a lot of time the new generation tend to we've been prone and trained to have things given to us quickly, because the advancement of technology, social media, for example. It's easy to look through your app or your social media outlets and compare yourself to the person down the street, or that person saying, oh, this person is this age and they're earning such and such, they're doing such and such, and not realizing the work that's been put behind, or the years of sacrifice that's been put behind the following. What advice do you have for young people right now, even any person in general who are going through the grind, understanding, okay, I'm going to put in the work now, I'm going to sacrifice now, excuse me, but in the long term, I know this is going to benefit me, and I know I'm going to come out stronger than ever.
The biggest thing, and this has been around for thousands and thousands of years, successful people will do what the unsuccessful people won't. And if you're willing to put in some time now and do all the other things that other people aren't willing to do, that's going to make you the success, because a lot of people just want to take the easy road. There is no easy road to success. If you don't put in the time and the effort, you're not going to succeed. Now, having said that, do some people succeed faster and easier than others? Yes, by all means. It depends on the industry they're in. But any business that you have takes a long time. Do you really think Apple and Microsoft and all that were created overnight? If you do, I got a small bridge for sale, and be happy to sell it to you. So, take a look at whatever business that you're really looking at, and it has taken a long time. For example, Tony Robbins, now he'll be old compared to a lot of the young people here. And people look at it, wow, he charges $1 million a year for a spot at his round table. Did he start out at that price? Hell no. He did 10,000 speeches for free before he ever got paid for one. How many young people, never mind just the young people, how many people today are willing to do 10,000 free speeches before they get paid for one? The majority of people will give up.
Exactly. And that brings me to my next point. The patience mechanism that comes into the following the business world. And nevertheless, it's very easy, like I said, with the advancement in technology and understanding the need to get it now. I want it now. If you look at social media or even turn the TV screen, you don't even see commercials quite often, because everyone is streaming things now. You don't want to wait for the next episode to come out next week. You want to have it right now, because at the end of the day, we're living in a now world. And that translates to the business world, where a lot of people don't have that patience mechanism to start a business. You might have a great, brilliant idea, and you start going, and all of a sudden you just stop, you get discouraged for whatever reason that might be. And we're here to tell you that at the end of the day, trust the long-term process, because you're going to have days and time period in which things aren't going to work out. It's going to be cloudy with a chance of meatball outside. It's going to be snowy. Everything is going to come in and you're just not going to feel comfortable. And it's the same thing that translates to as an athlete or as anything that you're doing in your professional field. You have to go through the long struggle, the long nights, in order for you to understand what it is that you want and enter. And if you don't go through that process, and like they always say, the process itself is the process is more important than the result itself.
I agree with you 100%. Success is in the journey. It's not in the end, because I'd be willing to bet everybody at some point, when they reached a particular goal they really wanted, look at it and say, is this it? Is this all there is to it? Rather than looking at the journey that you went on to get there, because that's where the true success comes in. That's where the growth is. It's not at the end, it's on the journey going through it. And that wanting everything yesterday is common from all the ages. It started back even when I was a kid in the 50s, and that's dating me some. So, but everything, you could have it now. And as technology and everything has progressed, it's showing people you can have everything instantly. One of the big challenges I see right now is this Chat GPT. It is going to cause a lot of people a lot of problems. And the reason I say that is people are going to get so used to it, they don't have to do any thinking for themselves.
Right.
That is going to screw up a lot of people. You have to be able to think for yourself. And don't just rely on that computer, that phone, that tablet, whatever it is, to give you all the answers. Because you're going to have to think for yourself. And if you can't do that, you're screwed.
Right. And absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that, because with the whole Chat GPT that just came out, it's one of those things where people are saying, okay, AI advancement is great, it's wonderful, don't get me wrong. But then again, the question then becomes, as human beings or even the business professionals, are we really thinking for ourselves? Are we really utilizing those brain cells that are needed to actually get the job done? Or is things are just getting easier for us to the point where we don't feel the need to actually do it more? Because now it's just eliminating the thinking factor, the process factor, and long-term wise. And this translates also into the business world. A problem comes. Are you going to go to Chat GPT and ask, how do I solve this problem? Can you think for yourself in that position in the business field? We have to make big time options for your company or as a startup or whatever situation might be. Because the way how I see it as a young generation, we grew up in this technology phase where everything's there, and it seems as if the more and more we get attached to our devices, the less we become interactive with ourselves and the people around us. That human connection and mechanism is no longer there no more. Because now it's the idea of me being able to stand there with my phone in my hand, talking to you rather than me going up to you and talking to you. Because now I feel more comfortable behind the scenes rather than in front of you. And how long is this gonna last? Because at some point, something has to give. At some point, there has to be a limit in regards to what you do. And understand that, okay, if I'm gonna become what I want to be or do what I want to do, it's necessary that I start making these habits and developing the right mentality and start doing the things that's going to put me in a position that needs to be done.
There's something that everybody should think about. Who puts the information in for Chat GPT? It has to be put in by somebody.
Right.
You're buying their thinking. Their thinking may not agree with yours. So the old expression, I don't know if it's still around, but where computers it was garbage in, garbage out. So whoever's programming that computer or the AI, what's their thinking style? Because I can guarantee a lot of that is going in there.
How would you say, how was it like for you growing up, starting in the business world, not having as much resources as we have right now? Resources meaning the technological advancements, rather than back in the days, you just go to the library. How was it? Tell me more about it.
Well, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as a cell phone. They hadn't been invented. Matter of fact, touch tone phones hadn't been invented. They were the old dial ones. And give a young person one of those and they don't know how to operate it. So, and libraries was where you got the majority of your information from. There were books. There wasn't the cassettes. You could get records, those big old round things you put on that turntable. You could get those, but there wasn't all the new conveniences. And then as the world started to evolve, things got easier and easier. Yes, it's made people's life a whole lot easier.
Right.
But the other thing is, it's tied people more to that little phone. Because when I first started out in the world, when you left that job site at 5 o'clock or whatever, the only way they could get a hold of you was if they phoned you, and answering machines weren't even around, so you didn't worry about them suckers either. So there was you couldn't leave anybody a message. So the only way they could if they couldn't get a hold of you, they waited till the next morning. The world doesn't have that many problems that can't wait. So many people say, oh God, I got to answer this right away. And if I don't answer it, they're not going to like me. Tough. I've had people send me a message, and just for your audience, I'm 72 years old. So a lot of the technology and stuff is really nice, and it's been a big help. But I had a young lady send me a message, and she said, I sent you a message 10 minutes ago and you didn't answer. It was 24 hours later. And she said, I don't know if I want to talk to you. Good. I really don't want to talk to you, because if you think I'm tied to this phone or this computer, you're 12 short of a dozen. People don't realize how much of their independence all this modern technology has taken away from them. When you figure you can't go to the store, you can't go anywhere without having that phone attached to your hip. It's unreal. And when you go to work for somebody, they want you to have a cell phone so they can connect with you 24/7. How is that making any more independence or making it easier? It's better for the company.
Right.
It's crap for you, because now they control your life 24/7. Where has that improved?
Then, so what would you say then regarding leadership? Throughout the course of the years, with different generation coming in, Gen X, the baby boomers, how is that playing a role, in the business side of things regarding, CEOs and leadership having to adapt to the way how to have a kid coming out of college or someone who's highly experienced? Are they adapting to people's ways and needs and wants, or is it just more like do whatever kind of a thing?
A lot of companies, and it's unfortunately, here's the rules, you're going to follow them. They don't want you to think for yourself. And it comes from the CEO right on down. A lot of the younger CEOs, they don't know how to think for themselves any more than the people coming out of the job market, because they've had virtually everything handed to them. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of CEOs, they got all these other people around them that are telling them what to do. Well, hey, if you're running a one-man show, you got all the decisions to make. And if you make the wrong ones, that can be very costly. So the whole thing you need to do is be able to learn to think for yourself, learn where you get your best information from, and don't rely on just every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's on the internet or some other chat that you can get in touch with. Research where you get your information from. That is going to make a major difference. The other part, Alf, and I've shared this with you before, there's some particular countries in Asia, I'm not sure which, but they consider when a senior citizen dies, that a library dies with them. Because you take a look at all the information that person has with them, all the experience, all the knowledge, and when they go, it's gone.
Right.
There's nobody to share it with. Now, the other thing that comes into that, and I'm sure it's still taking place, is a lot of these companies want to get rid of the old folks, 50 plus, right? Because they got to pay them the bigger salaries and everything. They don't stop and look at all the talent and everything that's walking out the door. That guy that's been there for 20 years or in that industry for 20 or 25 years got a lot of experience.
Right.
You get somebody that's just coming out of college, they don't have the experience. They might have the book knowledge, but they don't have the experience. So until you can get that experience to go with the book knowledge, you're losing a lot. Matter of fact, I'll share this example with you, and you know where I'm coming from. You know, when you went to that one college professor you had, the guy wrote a book. He
Mm,
never actually done it, you know, and yet the kids in the class all think this is the great stuff. But the
mm,
guy's never been out in the real world to do it. It all
that's
sounds good on paper, but the real world is entirely different.
that's true. And I think a story that I can piggyback on that is when I graduated, out of my undergrad, I was fortunate enough to have a really good um, working job, but it was like a slap in the face immediately, because it was like I wasn't expecting this at all, because my whole life I've been trained, to follow the school bell, to do this, do that, do that, do that. And once you get into the real world, I think a lot of, young generation of kids nowadays, myself included, we tend to get a bit discouraged because, holy crap, this is not what I expected it to be. This is not what I envisioned in my head. I thought I was gonna do this. I thought I was gonna do that. And all this kind of just bobbled up in your head, and your mind starts playing tricks with you. And before you realize it, a lot of people just tend to just quit their first job. They say, you know what? I'm quitting. I can't do this anymore. It's just too much for me. I can't handle this. Now realizing is that, one of the key components, is that understanding ways of how to lay your foundation. Because every job, I don't care if it's from the lowest job you can possibly think of, in cleaning whatever the situation might be, to corporate, has a lesson that can be taught, and you're just being built for the next level and for the next level. And I think the best advice Mr. Allen is telling us here also is that young generation needs to understand, take it easy. Each job that comes to you is an opportunity for the next one. Go in it with the intention of learning and understanding the world around you. Yes, gaining salary is a plus, but understand you can get more salary if you just listen more and actually follow directions, because each job is valuable and it's a key component that's laying the foundation that is needed for your career. Whether you want to do this or do that, it's all going to come back and just build you up to how you're supposed to be built. It's a process that's more important than the result.
You know, one of the things there, and that's a very good point, Alpha, is slow down to speed up. What I
Mm,
mean by that is slow down and learn, because as the young people get out in the real working world, you'll see people with 25 years experience that haven't gone anywhere because they keep repeating the first year over and over and over again, and they can't figure out why they don't get any promotions. Or you get somebody that comes in and wants to learn and grow, boom, they're moving right up the ladder. And the reason for it is because they took pride in what they're doing. They wanted to learn the job. It wasn't just, oh, well, here I am. They're going to give me a paycheck. Yeah, you're right. They will. You're never going to go anywhere, but that's it. The other thing to keep in mind is when you leave one job to go to another, you're not starting from scratch.
right.
Take what you learned in that previous position, there'll be chances to apply it. This again is where a lot of people make mistakes. They go into a new job. Well, I don't have any experience. They forget everything they've learned.
Ding, ding, ding.
That keeps them at the bottom.
Right, right. And it's so true because, again, it's just we live in a world where we tend to compare ourselves so easily. It's like your time will come. You know, just understand that whatever job that you're doing right now, whatever goal that you have, whatever vision that you're working towards, as long as you believe in that vision and that goal, it will manifest itself into reality. Everything takes time, and it's the process is more important. We keep repeating the same analogy over and over again, and it's very important to do the following because in today's day and age, and I'm going to go back to technology, we're forced to compare and move quickly. We're forced to go into the work job thinking, I need this job now. I deserve this because I did this and I did that. Pay me all the money I need. Not realizing that it's more important to actually understand who you are first, what you want to do second, and most importantly, listen and just follow direction. And everything will just mold yourself into reality. Sometimes your goals might not be exactly what you want. It might be spirited and redirected to different parts and I mean different directions, excuse me. But nevertheless, it's very important to take one step at a time throughout your journey because everyone's journey is different, and it's just honoring that process. And it goes from generational, from both the young and the old, and you name it, whole generation. And that's the reason why I've created this platform, for every young person out there, for any person out there in general, who's just stuck, who's trying to figure out the way how to be adaptable to this world, who thinks they're just in this island by themselves. We're not. I think it's very important to realize that what you're going through right now is the process. That's what's made you. That's how you're made. It's like how a diamond is made. A diamond is made in a dark and a rough. You don't see it. Any great things take time. So what Mr. Allen is saying, and myself included, is honor the process and realize that with the work that's been put in, it's gonna come out eventually. If you have the right intentions, the right goal, the right mindset, just be patient with yourself, even if you don't see no results. Because every successful business owner you've seen, any successful shop, you see the success, but you don't see what happens behind the scenes in regards to the failures, the rejections, the foreclosures, everything, you name it. Then again, people tend to persevere. You forget that side of thing in the business world, realizing it's the person who's willing to withstand the amount of pressure. Whatever your goal is, whatever that you want to do, whatever business you want to open, it's possible. Understand that it takes time. You have to persevere. And that perseverance comes from understanding who you are and your end goal result, which means you will do whatever it takes. You just keep going through the process, knowing that, hey, I am paying my success tax. Right? I need to learn this now. If I don't learn it right now, later down the road is going to cost me a lot. I'd rather go through it now than to learn it later on down the road.
That's very true, Alpha, because when you stop and think of it, 85% of the people hate what they do for a living.
Mm.
They go get a job, and then they go buy the car, they go buy the house, they have the wife and the kids, or the hubby and the kids, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then it's, well, I can't leave the job because I can't pay my bills if I don't have this money. Meanwhile, their goals and dreams get put aside. Here's one thing I'd like all your listeners to pay attention to. Life doesn't owe you anything but an opportunity to show what you can do.
Mm.
And here's an example, and you brought up a good one, Alpha, about people, they have to persevere. I'm sure everybody's heard of Disneyland and Disney World and all the rest of it. How many of you are aware that Walt Disney went broke 5 times?
Mm.
If he didn't persevere, he wasn't going to get there. Another good one is that electric, when you turn on that light in your house. How many of you realize that Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times to get that light bulb to work?
Right.
How many of you would have had the perseverance to keep going? Right?
Right.
He had a goal in mind. Actually, a reporter was interviewing him, and he said, "Mr. Edison, what's it like to fail over 10,000 times?" He said, "I didn't fail over 10,000 times. I found over 10,000 ways why the light bulb wouldn't work."
Exactly.
Just a different way to look at it.
Mm. Exactly. And thank you for the following, Mr. Allen. I think it's very important to realize that, we all have different lenses, right? Things can happen to you in life. It just comes down to how you react to it. Are you going to take the responsibility that's needed and say, you know what, hey, this is a great lesson learned. I'm going to keep moving forward, regardless of circumstances. Or are you going to play the victim role and blame other people? Either way, the choice is yours. And it's very important to realize that based upon the choices you make now, it's what's going to benefit you later down the road. And that comes down to the people you're engaging with, the conversations you're having, the books that you're reading, how you're taking care of your mental health, your body, your spirit, you name it. This is very important. You can talk about all this business stuff, but it's also very important you take care of yourself, because if you're not healthy, your business is not healthy. If you're not healthy, the people around you won't be healthy. So nevertheless, understand your why. Understand the reason why you do the things that you do. It might take longer than most, but realize at the end of the day, you're gonna get what you want. Stop comparing yourself to the person down the street. Stop comparing yourself to the kids you went to school with. You are different. You are unique. And it's important that you stay that way. Because why? Your path is different. Own that. Honor that. In generations, Mr. Allen will tell you the same thing. It's who you are that makes you unique. It's not following the crowd. It's just being yourself. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to say no to things. It's okay to do what you want to do. And it's okay to fail and get back up and try it again. Nevertheless, keep moving forward. Now, just to end this episode, I have several questions here from Mr. Allen. And the first one is, what advice would you give to any person right now who is going through any struggle, any adversity, who's just looking to give up? What advice have you learned over the years of your experience in the business field that that person, he or she, can benefit from?
Henry Ford said this well over 100 years ago. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Either way, you're right. So it's your choice. The other point, and Alpha just brought this up, is very clear. Your why has to be bigger than you. And the bigger your why is, that's what's going to get you through the challenges. Because we all run into them, whether we like it or not. We're all going to have challenges. Nobody gets through this life with a perfect life. It just doesn't happen. So you have to know your reason why, and are you willing to keep fighting for it? Because if you have a weak why, you're not going to fight for it. You're going to be flopping around like a fish out of water. You're going to be going from one job to another because, gee, that job wasn't right for me, or that guy didn't like me, or that girl didn't like me, and blah, 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 all the rest of the crap. You have to have a why. Your why has to be bigger than you. So to me, figure out what your why is and learn that. You may want to be the best baker there ever was. You might want to be the best floor cleaner there ever was. I really don't care. But your why has to be bigger than you. And you might want to be the CEO of your own business. There's a lot of cleaning companies out there that are making a ton of money. So people look at it and say, well, geez, I wouldn't want to be a floor cleaner. One of the guys that's one of my mentors makes well over $1 million a year being a floor cleaner. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of us out there that aren't making $1 million a year. So don't go putting down a job just because you don't like it. There's people out there succeeding at it. Find something you love to do that you would do whether you get paid for or not, and that you really love it. And that's the thing to do.
Absolutely. Again, to recap here, understand your why. Your why can be anything. It can be family. It can be friends. Whatever it is, that why has to be bigger than yourself. Understand that it takes time. Whatever it is that you're going to do, that time is more important. That time goes along with the man upstairs. So his time is better than your time. So either way, if you don't accomplish it amongst your time, it will come. Just be patient and understand the process is more important than the result itself. Honor the process, honor the struggle, understand your present mode and why that is important to you. Nevertheless, thank you so much for tuning in on today's episode. It's been a great pleasure to have Mr. John Allen with us today. I'm going to have all of his details, his website, and information on it below. Click for more information. And again, I want to thank everyone for listening this evening. Subscribe, add, chat, comment, anything whatsoever. Looking forward to building, growing. And again, thank you so much for this honorary episode of You Know, the Generational Talk with business leaders from all around the world. It's a pleasure. My name is Alpha Freeman, and thanks for having me. Thanks for having Mr. John Allen with me today. Have a nice day.
Thank you for the honor of being here.